Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Small and medium-sized enterprises, they say, play a critical role in the economy. At a time when most of them have been hit by COVID-19 and they are still struggling to get back onto their feet, what level of support should be given to them? Should there be a second round of stimulus package or maybe some technical assistance? Well, we're trying to get answers to some of these issues as I'm honored to have with me in the studio the Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprise Agency, Mrs. Kosi Yankey-Ayeh. Well, she's not representing a different organization, but the same organization. Previously, the National Board for Small Scale Industry, but now it's an agency. We'll be getting some answers. Why the name change? And how can we also assist small businesses in these times? A recent UNDP and Ghana Health Service report actually called for additional support for these businesses. All these issues wrapped up on PM Express. Be right back after the break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about a topic or an issue that is passionate to my heart. And I believe there are a lot of businesses out there when it comes to assisting those small and medium-sized enterprises out there who've been hit by COVID-19. And what is the role of the Ghana Enterprises Agency? Madam Kosi Yankey-Ayeh, welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to have you again in the studio.
Yes, this is my second time.
How are you doing?
Doing very well, not too bad.
Great. How managing things during these COVID times, working, and I believe that these were the times too that you had to be dispersing funds to people and all the rest. How easy, how challenging was it?
I think it's been an interesting year, right? Past year, up from when COVID hit in March till last year to date. I think it's been a very interesting, exciting time. There's been a lot of good energy around in terms of helping to build a whole agency or board. There's also been a lot of energy in trying to support businesses and ensure that we find ways to get them to stabilize and be sustainable over the period of time. So it's been very interesting for myself and my team working around the clock for the past year. I mean, I think this is the most we've done in many years, and so it's been very exciting times.
I knew about the talk or the plan to make the national small scale, board for small scale industries as an agency, but I was surprised. I went for a program at Kempinski. Then I saw a branding there about Ghana Enterprises Agency. And I thought, okay, what is this? Only to realize later that the National Board for Small Scale Industries is now the Ghana Enterprises Agency. Why? Is it a rebranding, name change, or a revision of an act? Why that name?
Okay. So I think, like you said, it's been a long time coming. We've been working on this for some time. When we came in 4 years ago, the first thing we did was to really assess the work we had done at the National Board for Small Scale Industries to see how best we can strengthen the institution, not only for the institution's sake, but really for the sake of the micro, small, and medium enterprises in the nation. And also because we had been tasked by the president to see how best we can support the private sector and this sector in general to ensure that people were getting employed, to support sustainability of businesses, and a whole lot of that. So in coming in, the first thing that we had to look at, which was really led by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, was this agency enough? That at that time,
then as an industry or institution or a board.
Exactly. So if the National Board for Small Scale Industries was enough as an institution, and then that takes you back to looking at a board that had been set up in 1981 and had really become effective in 1985. So from the time that the act came out, up until the time it was operationalized, it took 5 years for that to happen. So you're looking at 1981 and looking at 2020 and realizing the world has changed. And so if the world has changed, you can't continue to have an act that doesn't support the changes that the country was moving towards or the direction the country wanted to move towards. And so what do you have to do? So maybe we would wish it was a rebranding because it's easier that way. You just change your billboards. But no, it was more than that. It was really a transformation from National Board for Small Scale Industries into Ghana Enterprises Agency. Because the agency was now trying to look at how do we resolve the challenges within the sector? And how do we keep ourselves abreast at a time like this to be able to support the MSMEs in the sector? Initially, the NBSSI Act focused on the micro and small enterprises. And then now this new Act says, no, how do we look at the micro, small, and medium enterprises? Because if you look at things in the small component, they remain small forever. And so how do you move beyond that to grow the businesses and strengthen the economy?
So more of an expansion of scope, if I should say that.
Exactly.
And some additional stuff, right?
Exactly. It's an expansion of scope. It's actually also going beyond the expansion to also look at, be abreast with the trends of time. Technology is taking a lot of things, you know. COVID happened. You're looking at a system where there are a lot more entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses in technology than you've ever thought about. And so all that is a shift from what we've known in 1981 to date, yes.
But for that small, medium-sized or that small businesses out there, say that, George, and so what? Why should I be excited about this? For me, what I care is about the support and all those things. Why should that person be excited that now you are an agency?
I think people should be excited about it because it shows that we've put private sector at the core of the work we do. And we've actually walked the talk of trying to ensure that micro, small, and medium enterprises are really the backbone of the economy. And so they should be excited about it because if you look at our work and what we had done in the past, we looked at the micro, small, and medium enterprises looking only at more the industrialization, more manufacturing. But now it has also broadened our scope as to what we had to do. If you take the CAP business support we had done in the past, we did something unprecedented, something we'd never done before. We never used to work with traders, right? And that's a huge segment of our economy. And we believe it's a huge segment that can also transform into industrialization or move into the manufacturing sector. And we could place more emphasis on providing them with some form of support, not only financial, but others. And also, one of the things that we've been able to do is come up with a policy. And like you said, someone would ask, why should I worry about a paper document? But the policy is really important because through that policy document, we were able to say, these are the challenges affecting the sector. Because we did a survey on that through the work. By understanding it, we came up with a policy direction as to this is what we'll do to address it. And to be able to do this, we need a different type of agency. So the policy documents led to the agency that led to the design of the implementation. And so why should they be excited? One, our work is going to be more decentralized. So we'll be one of the most decentralized government agencies that provides business support. So we are in almost every district in this nation. As we speak, we have 190 business advisory centers and 37 business resource centers, and we're expanding and enhancing the scope of work. So they should be excited about it, because soon now they can walk into any of these advisory centers and ask to get support for regulatory support. In some instances, we have discounted programs and products for them to go to the Food and Drugs Authority to get their certification for food products or other drugs that they need or they manufacture. So there's that aspect of things. Why should they be excited about it? Because it also makes us relevant and stronger for us to pool in a lot more resources to support the sector. So now we have more access to funding support. We have more enhanced business development support, more than we've ever had. We become more efficient as an institution, so they should be excited about it.
Because I was coming back to this question about being an autonomous institution or having that free space to work, because for some government agencies, the complaint has been with the bureaucracies when it comes to doing stuff and how they have to channel everything through their regulator or their mother ministry. And therefore, the question here is that, would you be able or are you able to summon through this challenge where you are now quite autonomous, so you wouldn't have that problem of having to deal with all these institutions before something is actually actualized?
Yes. I think that one of the things we need to be able to see and understand is for every agency or for every authority, you fall under a ministry. Yeah. And it's important because you need to take policy direction. So your ministry comes up with a policy direction and these agencies and authorities implement, right? And so we go on the ground and ensure that what we have as policy is actually being actualized on the ground. So if you look at it from that point, you don't see bureaucracy. What you see is direction. Because I personally believe that if you don't plan, you don't succeed, right? And so the ministry assists in the planning and gives the direction. And then you as the agency or the authority then goes down on the ground to deliver the work. The bureaucracies happen within the institutions. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're attached to a ministry, then you are a bureaucratic entity. It's about how efficient that institution itself runs. And it's important to put in place the structures and the systems to lessen the bureaucracies within it. There are certain things you can't do away with, but as much as possible, when you put in place the structures and the systems, those bureaucracies should not limit or stop the work that you're doing.
The previous institution, the National Board for Small-Scale Industry, supervised a huge project where you went about supporting small, medium-sized institutions and all the rest who were hit by COVID-19. As we speak right now, are you done with the disbursement? Has the page been closed?
You know, actually, we're going through a lot of different processes now in terms of looking at how to audit. We're working on all of that. We're also looking at the CAPBAS in terms of who got it, what were some of the challenges. As of last week, we also had a situation where when we reviewed, we realized some people had never gone to the banks to go and take
they've
the funds.
Applied, the money has been disbursed to the bank?
They had applied, they had been successful. The funds had been given to the banks to reach out to them. And for some reason or the other, from one bank there was about, or a group of them was about 1,500 accounts that had not been opened or taken over because the people didn't go for the funds. It could either be because one, the main person died, the person who had put it there. It could also be because, secondly, we called and they didn't get through to them, and you've tried several times and they didn't get through to them. It could also be because some people might have used their, maybe the secretary or the plant manager or someone's phone number, and the person doesn't work there anymore, and so did not pass the message on. So there's so many different reasons to it. So those accounts are there, and as a team considering, we're going to give it to somebody else, right? Because if they haven't come forward and we've tried, we even have a call center and we've tried several times to even reach out to people. And some of them might even say, we don't need the funds anymore.
These are 1,500 accounts.
Yes.
Any idea the total amounts that were in these accounts?
No, I don't have the exact numbers because I wasn't sure this was
But this is serious. At the time when people were complaining that we're struggling to get funds from the then National Board for Small-Scale Industries, the monies have been advanced to these banks and they're no longer interested.
Yes, some are not. One thing is that it's not everybody who we advance the funds to. Let's be clear on that. But some also might not be interested anymore. It could be due to timing. It could be because they had stabilized quickly and they didn't want it anymore, or they didn't want to use it for the purposes that they wanted to initially. So there are an array of reasons why.
Could it be that the money was too small for them?
It could also mean the money was too small for them. That could also be a reason. Yes.
And that is why they didn't go for it. For you, I mean, and not just to stress this issue, but were you surprised that you saw the volumes of applications, and the first time that you were here, even the calls post after the program and all the rest? And if these individuals or firms were really, really in need of money, and this has been done, and this has not happened, were you surprised by that?
The number of people who applied for the
and
funding?
the fact that there's been some disbursement and they haven't gone for the money.
Yes. I think it's important to note that majority of the people went for the money, right? Because we've been able to, in excess of the CAPBAS and our other programs, we've been able to disburse over 300,000 people. So that means some people went. 1,500 is a drop in the bucket if you look at it realistically. But yes, we were surprised by the numbers. And why were we surprised? Because we had planned looking at the statistics and the data we had from Ghana Statistical Service in terms of what the economy looked like, right? And so those were the numbers, and we had targeted those in a certain percentage, looking realistically at those regions where they had been highly impacted by the COVID-19. At that time, the shutdown of those regions, or regions where we had food coming into the bigger cities which had been shut down. So these were all the things that we were looking at. And so based on those numbers, we were quite surprised by the numbers that applied. But it wasn't a problem for us because it also allowed us to think about how we design future interventions and how we should also go out and do more for the businesses.
And sorry to backtrack, so I was just trying to find out from you whether you brought the first program where you supervised that stimulus package to an end, or you are winding up, or you're auditing the process right now in terms of what you gave out.
So we're winding down. As I had mentioned, some funds were in the accounts that we have to bring on board and also reassign. When we get funds, we also continue to provide people with the funds that they need and the funds that will support their businesses as well. So it really is an ongoing process in terms of having the funds, pulling the funds of those who didn't go for the accounts and making sure other people also benefit from it and really winding it down from it, yes.
Not getting into specifics, but any fair idea about the amount of funds that you've disbursed so far?
If you
rounding up, not exact numbers, let's say.
Okay, so initially about 650 million was the first tranche of it. Of that, majority of that has been given out. The rest are also with the banks for the people to go in and get their accounts. And then looking at that, give or take the 1,500 plus businesses who have not come for it, and that would have to reallocate as well.
Having gone through this, has it given you a different perspective of what the SMEs out there really want? And that sometimes maybe the problem is not just about funding, even though we've been told in the classrooms and been told in the leadership talks that funding is the biggest challenge for SMEs and small businesses. Having supervised this project, has it given you any different perspective about what the real problem is when it comes to these small and medium-sized businesses?
If you look at what we've done in the past year, which has been really championed by the president, I think we've done something very unprecedented, and I think it's something that has to go in the history books in terms of the amount of funds that have been given in this nation. Not everybody or not a lot of countries did that when COVID hit. A lot of people didn't do that. It was very few people.
That's about 650 million Ghana.
Exactly, in terms of that intervention. It's one of its kind. And what it also did for us, like you had mentioned, was it allowed us to see certain things within the system. Once you ask people what their problems are, they would always say money, right? Yeah. If you give them money, they will take the money most often, right, than not. But we also realize that there's also the need to really look at business development service support. So how do you build the capacity of the leadership and management so that they'll be able to do more and actually seek more resources, right? And how do they plan to get those resources? And I think it's been very important in looking at the data and the kind of requests that came in for us to deduce a lot of these things. But at the time when COVID hit, it was about funding. And that was what was important to a lot of people. But what it really showed us was the way our country and the sector was segmented, that a huge chunk of our businesses were micro. And that allowed us to expedite the Ghana Enterprises Agency Act. Why? Because we realized that we can't live in a system where everybody was micro. And it wasn't a good way to stabilize and strengthen the economy. So by having an act such as the Ghana Enterprises Agency, what you were then looking at is, in terms of coordinating, in terms of designing programs and support for the sector, we could then accelerate the growth from these micro to small, small to medium. Because if we did not do that, we were going to continuously have one-man businesses that died as quickly as they were either started or as quickly as the lifespan of the business owners. And so those were some of the lessons that we learned and the signals we got from the type of businesses that applied, and which showed us clearly how the Ghanaian ecosystem looked like.
Do I get from you that as the challenge of COVID eases a little bit, it means that now it's more of technical support. Is it advisory? Like you think that these lot of small businesses out there need than the continuous funding? Because I know that some people that when you ask them, even after giving them about 2 million or even 10 million, even $50 million, those who say we still need money.
Yes.
When things stabilize a little bit, do you think that the support should move to more of technical support, governance, structures and all those things rather?
Yes, I believe so. I think that technical support is key because one of also the challenges we realized why some people could not access the funds was because they didn't have the technical know-how to fill out the questions that we asked. And those questions were very, very fundamental and important to the program because there were questions that one day someone would ask us as an institution, why did you give X amount of money when you knew the numbers didn't make sense or add up? Right? Or you'd ask someone, okay, what are you using the money you've requested for? And they don't put anything there. They just left it blank. Not realizing that it was a very important question for us to determine if the amount of money they had asked for was the right thing. And it boiled down again to technical assistance because for some people, and even myself sometimes, I know I need money, but what do I need the money for? Right? And you know, it happens to all of us. I know I need money. Yeah. What am I going to use the money for? And it's important for you to really assess that through technical assistance. So for us going forward, it's important. You know, we have various programs we're looking at, even under this funding, under the new Ghana Enterprises Agency. We talked about the enhanced business development services through our business advisory and business resource centers across the nation. And also really coming up with a game changer program, which we're designing, which looks at how do you change the lives or the business, the game changer for these enterprises in Ghana. What would it take? And it's all about intentionality. So how do we intentionally provide business support to them? Most people see the former NBSSI, and I'm sure people are thinking we should be a funding agency. We are not a funding agency. We'll provide the support needed to the business, be it technical, in some instances facilitate or provide access to finance. But we do not want to be seen as a funding agency. We want to be seen as a total 360 support given to businesses when the need is there and when we have the resources to provide that kind of support. More
of a 3D support program. Right?
Exactly.
Let me backtrack a little bit again. Even during the time where you were disbursing these funds, in our newsrooms, we had lots of calls. There are people who are still complaining that, for instance, an agency would say that my association, I know all the members, nobody had it. Did this money really go out? Because some people are still complaining that we didn't get anything.
I think it's an interesting question or interesting point you've made. Did the money really go out? Yeah. The answer is yes, it did.
Okay.
The money went out. It went to the ground. The names are on our website for the longest time. They're human beings. Like my staff cannot make up the names of 300,000 people. That's a lot of work.
Those who benefit.
Exactly. You know, and it's one of those things that the system allowed us to see who the people were and where they were. Yes, people will say, oh, my association never benefited. How do you know?
Right? Isn't that interesting? Because then I remember at the point in time, the argument was that you wanted to work with some of these identifiers, trying to be corrected. So if, for instance, an association comes which is recognized and says that maybe the Ghana Hotel Association or something, and there are small side members, the president said, listen, George, as far as I'm concerned, most of our members applied, nobody had it.
It's not
and not holding brief for them, but these are some comments that we got in our newsroom. So then I asked myself, okay, but where was this money going?
Exactly. But the truth is that data doesn't lie, does it? You know, that's why we use technology, because we wanted to be able to track, and the data did not lie. So we have the data. You know, we use data intentionally because we knew issues like this would come up. People say, oh, I never got it. Oh, my people never got it. Or I didn't get what I asked for. But we have the data. Right? And what we did and we continuously did was to engage the associations. I remember one time there was one association that came out, the Creative Arts Association. People were saying, oh, we didn't get it, right? You remember? Yeah. Oh, we didn't get it. Then it came to, what do you mean? So the same person who had come out and published something came back to actually also say, I'm sorry, but I just found out that people got it and didn't talk about. One thing I've realized is that people don't like talking about money. right? And most instances,
private.
Everybody is private. Ghanaians are private people to a large extent. So even when they get it, they'll tell you, no, I haven't got it. But we have data to boost and to back what we have to say. So I know that. So without any doubts, I'm not worried about it because I know they got it. At some instances, they said, oh, the sector hadn't. But the creative arts sector had about 45 million Ghana cedis pumped into it. People said, oh, the schools didn't get it. We pumped a lot of money into the schools, right? Almost 30 million plus as well. And they got it. And the schools have it. We have the list of the schools. We know the exact banks in which we pushed the funding through, the sectors and the associations and the leadership. Yes, they got it. You know, and I think it's important to realize that that is why it's important for us to be audited on that level, for people to really see the truth. And as I have said, data doesn't lie.
And this data is available on your website in terms of the institutions and maybe not names, I don't know, in terms of confidentiality and all the rest, but maybe a fair idea that if I go to your website, I'll have a fair idea about disbursement or sectors or areas or maybe institutions, even not the names, I should say.
In the National Board for Small Scale, which we changed as of yesterday, but as of yesterday, we had the data on it. We had the names. It's public funds.
Okay.
Right? It's public funds. So the names were on the website of the beneficiaries, right? And it's clear. And also in terms of the people we had worked with, we engaged the associations. We have the minutes to show the engagement. And for them, we had data. We met with the association leadership. We shared with them those who got it, why those who didn't get it didn't get the funds, you know, and those who were about to get it. Constant engagement.
What was the
constant engagement? Over 130 associations we worked with.
What was the minimum amount disbursed and what was the maximum amount disbursed?
So the minimum amount was about 300 Ghana cedis. The maximum amount was about 250,000 Ghana cedis to 300,000.
Interesting. So, I mean, going forward for you with some of these problems and all the rest, if there should be a second round, because with the report coming in from the United Nations Development Program and in the Ghana Fiscal Service that they think that businesses that were hit need a second round of support. I mean, would you welcome such an initiative, or you think that, listen, from what you've seen, maybe funding is not the way to go again?
I don't know if funding is not the way to go, right?
Sorry, my bad.
No, that's okay. I think it's about what will work for the businesses for them to take off. And we're doing a huge study on that as well. We're doing an impact assessment to understand if it really benefited the people the way we wanted it to benefit them. And if it's really going to get them to move the businesses to the next level. And if not, what else can we do, right? So that impact assessment is being done. And it's important for us to do that to see what will happen within that. So will there be a second phase? Maybe. We'll take a look at it to see how best we can provide some support and relief, right? And then be able to grow the businesses, and then we'll see how that goes.
You know, you're an agency. You can just pick a phone, call your minister, I need money.
That's a beautiful idea.
No.
Well, that's not how we work. I wish you could say that you could just call your MD and get money. Okay. But you have to go through processes, don't you? If it's that easy, I'll move here and work with you. But it's really, it's a system, right? So you do have to budget. You just don't get up and say, today I want this money. But you really need to budget for it. And like we said, because the government and the president understand the importance of support to micro, small, and medium enterprises, and the private sector, there's a few things that we did, right? There was the CAP business support. There was funding from there. There were other partners who came on board, like the MasterCard Foundation. We did the Nkoswo Fund. That brought on board a few 90 million Ghana cedis as well to support and buttress that. There were other things that came in. And we realized that we did this digitalization program, which is ongoing, with the support of GIZ and Government of Ghana. And the SMEs were excited because they realized and saw the shift in their businesses more than even anything else. Like you keep saying, maybe it's not money, maybe it is something else. And so we were helping them to digitalize their businesses, right, and provide that support. There was other support we brought on board where we looked at businesses with the MasterCard partnership and Food and Drugs Authority, where we decided that, okay, what does your business need? We're going to help you reduce the cost of getting the certification from Food and Drugs Authority through a progressive licensing, and a lot of businesses benefited from it and really got and were able to see the growth of their businesses. And that's what, you know, an agency like ourselves is supposed to do. And that's what we intend to do more of in terms of providing all-round support to the business.
You had a little over 600 million Ghana cedis. I mean, again, on second thought or having the chance to look at things again, would you have wished for a larger amount of funds to disburse? I mean, there were some people who argued that this money was too small, maybe $10 million or even $20 million to your institutional agency to disburse. Do you wish that you would have had more funds, or looking at what you were exposed to and the work that you did, maybe this is just a first round, maybe it was okay, maybe it wasn't?
Nothing is ever enough, right? People would always ask for more, right? Oliver Twist. We all.
I'm looking at from the disbursement perspective as an institution.
From the disbursement perspective, yes, we'd always ask for more because there's an endless pit, right? And there's always as I mentioned to you, there were so many other MSMEs in the ecosystem that we had actually even envisioned or thought about. So yes, maybe. But then we also realized that there were a huge number of businesses who did not either apply or make the right applications. And so, unfortunately, we had to overlook the applications in the process. So, yes, if we had more money, great. I think it's always
I had this question because maybe in the process of approving the disbursement for some of these businesses, I mean, there are some you looked at their proposals, the business module and everything. It's like, I wish I could give this guy or this business more, but I have a cap to also spread everything across. And that is why, that is the context of the question, that having worked with some of these businesses, looked at the proposals, the modules, at least if I had more money in the bank, I would have given more to Ajua Mensah, who had a wonderful agribusiness proposal, maybe snail farming and everything. And he had lots of clients and everything and distribution network. And I wish I could give this lady about maybe 700,000 Ghana cedis if I'm not to just grow the business. But you are working with limited funds.
I think it's important to note that we were at a crisis stage at that time for Ghanaian MSMEs. So the goal was not to look at expansion. And we made that clear. And I remember sitting here telling you that we were not here to expand businesses. We were here to stabilize the businesses, right? So that's what we were doing. And so it did not allow us to think, oh my goodness, this is a beautiful business idea. It just said, what is the business idea? How do we stabilize you so that we look at other supports in the future? And that all translated into the Ghana Enterprises Agency once again. So I'll take us back to the Ghana Enterprises Agency. That's why at the launch, the president said, we're launching the Ghana Enterprises Agency. We are launching this MSME and Entrepreneurship Act, the policy, right, which would feed into the implementation process for this new agency. And along with that, we decided that we're not going to do another thing where we're saying, this is a document, go and read it. And this document just guides us. But where are the resources to back the implementation? So then the president said, this is 143 million Ghana cedis that is going to be used to support the interventions that you're doing, right? So what that means is that, as you're saying, there are some SMEs that are also good that we can grow. Because you're looking at a new, totally different economy and ecosystem. You have African continental free trade. You have those who are looking at regional expansion. You have those who've come out of COVID even stronger and better stabilized and want to expand. How do we provide support to them and expand it there? But as of the other funds, it was to stabilize.
So if I get this right, there's a kind of a second round support, but this will not be like disbursement, but more providing another form of support, I can use that word again, to these firms out there that were initially stabilized.
Yes.
That is what this 145 million Ghana cedis is going to do, right?
It is not a second round.
Okay.
A second round is when you say, we've done this, let's do a second round of the same thing, right? Now we are saying that this is a new agency. The new agency is well-resourced and efficient. This is an amount of funds to support the businesses that you work with. These businesses would have to grow. We see that they have the ability to be able to export, to be able to employ more people, because employment is key and important on the president and government's agenda. So how do we provide them with the needed support? Be it funding, be it access to business development support, be it mentorship and coaching, things that would really spark that, things that other businesses have happened. And if you remember yesterday, the Minister of Trade had also mentioned that if you look at Casa Preco, those were businesses in the past he had mentored, he had helped build, and had now become bigger enterprises. So through this new enterprises agency, Ghana Enterprises Agency, how do we do more? How do we transform more businesses? How do we build the giants of Ghana so that they can also support in creating jobs and expanding the economy? I'll
be getting more from you on when you start making use of those 145 million Ghana cedis. And also, whether for you, do you see a Jeff Boss coming out of these small-sized businesses or an Amazon or maybe a Facebook, or we have a long way to go? It's PM Express Business Edition as we engage the Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency on supporting small-sized medium businesses during this COVID times. What is the future like? Take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about supporting SMEs in these COVID times and what is the role of the Ghana Enterprises Federation. I'm here, Enterprises Agency. We're here with Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprise Agency, Madam Kosi Yankey-Ayeh. Thank you so much for your background. So I was just trying to fixated about this whole agency name, so please forgive me.
That's fine.
So, I was just trying to get some understanding from you. Now you've been given 145 million Ghana cedis, Ghana Enterprises Agency. What does that, and I want to, what does that mean for me as a small business? That is there another opportunity that from next quarter I can give you an update of my business and another support again? Or what it means?
Yes, I think that it means a lot. I think first and foremost, what it means is that there's more resources to support Ghanaian MSMEs in the country. There are more resources to build on existing businesses and see them grow, right? And it doesn't even start next quarter. It starts like the day we launched. And so looking at from the beginning of next week, launching more support and more development programs to build and boost those businesses in terms of access to financing, in terms of access to BDS support to build them. And so the funds are available to start the work. I think we are actually even a few days late, but we are really starting the work. And even if you say next quarter is 2 weeks away. So yes, we are ready to get on the ground and get the work done to build the businesses to go.
For those businesses that want to engage the agency, what is the advice to them about what you need to do so that you also get the required level of support from us? Sometimes maybe it's about pitching, connecting, networking, and all those things. What do I need to do? Maybe Covenant Menses Enterprises into maybe footwear, he's doing well, the books are good, he's being hit by COVID, people are not buying. From next month or from Monday, what does he need to do to catch your eye, or say catching the speaker's eye, so that you can support him?
Okay, so I think that what they need to do, or what businesses or enterprises need to do, is the reason why we have these business advisory and business resource centers that we talk so much about. It's the one-stop shop for business development at the doorstep in the district level, right? So as much as possible, if you're within a district, you can approach or go to these business advisory centers or business resource
under
centers.
Your agency.
Under our agency.
That are scattered around.
That are scattered around the nation to speak to them and get some support. Now, if they don't even have the answer, they'll always get back to you. We also have, if you go on our website, you get access to our phone hotline, ask the questions you need, send an email, we shall respond to it and give you the necessary information. There's Facebook where you can also go to and maybe drop a question or two and ask. But the goal is we want to be accessible, right? We also want to be not only in Accra or Kumasi. That's why we're looking at the very decentralized system so they're accessible to the MSMEs across the nation. And when they approach them, really what can they do in terms of what kind of support is needed? So if access to finance support we currently have is not enough for them, or it's not what they need, we can really advise them, or we can even introduce them to some of our training programs. If we feel that it's digitalization, we have digitalization programs where they can actually assess. If we feel they need access to a Food and Drugs Authority, and we can provide that resources, because in some instances we might have it, we provide them with that needed resources. So starting from now, those tools and the opportunity for them to grow their businesses are available. For this next phase of looking at the funding, and I think if you listen to the president's speech, he said this is just the beginning. Really,
more is to come.
More is to come. Better is to come. Grander things. Yes.
$50 million.
Why not? It's possible. I mean, the CAP business support was more than $50 million. Yes, it was over $150 million for Ghanaians. So there's the opportunity to do more. And the beauty of it is that it went directly to the people on the ground and provided that resource and support. And that's what Ghana Enterprises Agency does. Our work goes directly to the people on the ground, right? It doesn't go through other entities. It goes straight to the people. It touches at the heart of the people. And so when you're done and you hear the stories of people who talk to you about, and you actually go on the field and see how the work we've done has changed the lives and the businesses. How you see people, even through COVID, were able to expand their businesses because they got something small. It's amazing, you know.
And again, I think I asked this question earlier, but I want to get some clarity from you. That, do you think that we need a second round of stimulus package? And what form should it be done? There are some who have seen that it should be a more targeted support, agribusiness and certain sectors that it can have a rippling impact on other sectors. And what should be the form that this will be carried out? You think we need it?
Yes, I think that for some instances, and so in the 143, there's a part of it that would look at COVID relief for SMEs, right? And so it's looking now at the job creators and how to propel them to that next level. So yes, the access to funding is needed. Last year, up until early of this year, was looking at a time or a period of, we were in the heat of things. And so, as I mentioned, we needed to stabilize, and I talked about that. And I said, post-recovery, even though COVID still exists, right? And not in the numbers we had seen in the past, but at the lower levels, and we still have to take care of ourselves, we are seeing that it's also time for some form of recovery. The world has gone through it. It's not only Ghana that has suffered this unfortunate situation, the whole world has. And the whole world is now trying to wake up. And in that wake-up process, there's the need for us to also boost the businesses, and that's what we're going to do. Try to put in some form of funding for the S and the M's that are non-resource businesses to be able to build them. Those in manufacturing, those in agribusiness, those in businesses that supported during COVID in terms of healthcare sector. How do we provide them with the resources during post-COVID, if there's any phase like that in the world, to be able to boost these businesses to the next level.
So this one, do I have to apply to the agency or the agency itself based on the data that you have, or rather be approaching some of these institutions?
No, we decided not to do that because then people will say you're being partial about it. But what we wanted to do was that there's going to be a platform that would be open, would announce it, would go through the same process, and people would apply. But what we want people to realize is that you don't need to spend money. You don't need to pay people to apply. You know, a lot of people spend time paying people. I pay this person, and so when they didn't get the funding, they said, we said go and pay funding, and this is what happened. It's a free portal, right? You just apply, go on the system and apply and answer the questions. You realize that majority, a lot of the people in the past would answer part of the questions and leave a whole part, or take or use other people's documents. So there were a lot of duplications, and that immediately was fraud for the system and expelled them. So people say, I never got my money. I have a woman from Takrady who called me 2 weeks ago. She sent emails, very aggressive emails, you know, borderline insulting us about the work we did. And we decided that, okay, we'll go in the system. We don't know you by name in the system, we know you by a number. You know, so the names do not allow you to check. It's only your number, the unique code you have. This was to avoid people pulling names of people from the system, but you went by the codes. Now we went into the system and realized that her secretary had used her information to apply for herself and had also used her application to apply for her. So she had asked her secretary to apply for her. So she had all her data and so did it for herself and the woman herself. And because of that, it was a conflict in the system, and the system would not allow it to be paid because it was fraudulent, right? Imagine me paying somebody for using your data. You'd come back and sue me at some point and say, how did you give the money to that person? So the system, so we ask people, apply yourself. It's easy. The platforms are easy to fill out, you know. So apply yourself, make sure you're using your own information and there's no duplication so that we'll be able to get the work done.
With the first round disbursement that were made, are they going to pay back or this is a grant?
In terms of the CAP business support. So for the CAP business support, there were two sides. There was a grant part, which is those who applied up to 2,000 Ghana cedis. Those who got up to 2,000 Ghana cedis, it is a grant component, right? It was a forgivable loan. And then from 2,000 and above, it's payable. Yes. And also, even in terms of, if you've had funding in the past, if you pay properly, would allow us to also see how in the future we give you more support.
And going forward with the agency, for you, what should we be expecting from you going forward? Apart from all these wonderful ideas that you've spoken about, going forward, what should we be expecting from you?
I think you should expect a whole lot from us. Like you mentioned, we have a wonderful bouquet of things.
Multi-choice.
Exactly. So you have the access to finance component, you have strong BDS component. I think you also should look forward to a clear direction or government's vision of where it wants to take MSMEs. I think one of the things that has also been missing is a database, a real database of MSMEs that clearly helps us to understand the needs of those MSMEs. And we're going to be working a lot with that data to be able to support the MSMEs. I think we also need to be able to realize that there's one of the big things that this Act allows us to do is to set up a micro, small and medium enterprise fund. Because through this process, we came to realize the difficulty of access to finance for MSMEs in this nation, not from government, because government is not supposed to be the main tool of access to finance. It's the financial institutions, and there's a big gap. So how do we collaborate and work with them and really strengthen them to be able to work together to provide that access to funding? And so a fund is one of the things that this Act allows to be set up to support that sector, to even be the first level of funding for them to grow so they become attractive and accessible for other financial institutions or programs to work with.
This portal that you spoke about in terms of the second phase of support, all other things being equal, what period are we looking at it being ready? Not that maybe beginning of third quarter or something. When is it going to be ready so that a person who is eagerly waiting to put in that request can do that?
So by next week, it will be ready. The system, I mean, we've tested the system, we've worked on the technology platform, we know it works. So it's ready to go out. And that's why it was important for us to launch before we open it up, and would share all that information with yourself and others, and also put it out in the public domain so that if people are interested, they would be able to apply. People could also go on our website at, when the time comes, which is by next week, and check to see if when it's up and they can.
I also want to find out from you, but the agency is working now. You're going to do some direct pitching. Maybe I come to you in terms of support. Maybe I want to maybe supply produce to the national school feeding program and all the rest. If you do the assessment, I'm worth it. Would there be a situation where you can be connecting these businesses in terms of to other state institutions for them to be assessed?
Yes, that's a whole program under the policy that we need to look at in terms of getting more businesses into the public procurement process, understanding it, getting, there's always been a focus, a gender focus on women even in the supply of working in procurement processes and making it accessible to them. So there's a whole lot more that this would also do for them in terms of being able to bridge that gap, being able to support and assist them to get to that point.
Ghana Enterprises Agency.
Yes.
The final words, madam.
I think that it's important. One of the best things that we could have had for MSMEs or the private sector is this Ghana Enterprises Agency. I want Ghanaians to look at it not as a policy document or just another agency that has been set up, but really look at it as one of those agencies that would really support the backbone of the economy. And at the end of the day, we work as much as possible to provide access to finance, business development support to grow their businesses. And so people should walk in and ask questions. Because they always say, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. So as much as possible, let's ask, because the information is always out there to support.
Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing the word from the government.
Exactly.
Well, also we have to draw the curtains down on supporting SMEs out there and getting some assurances and also commitment from the chief executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency on what government is doing to support small and medium-sized enterprises out there. And it appears there's still something out there for you, for those who really need support badly and actually, quote, are in good standing. My name is JoyNews. Have a great day.